Well, hello and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for Friday, September 6, 2024, the 250th day of the year with 116 to go. There are 16 more days of summer, 59 days until Election Day, less than 30 days until early voting begins. And it's National Read a Book Day, a very important day. September 6th is also National Coffee Ice Cream Day on the food calendar. I love coffee, I love ice cream, so it's pretty much a no-brainer, right? If you are in the area of the country with triple-digit temperatures or in an area of the country that's seeing heavy rain and storms, maybe staying in, reading a book and eating some ice cream sounds like a pretty good plan. So Hunter Biden surprised everyone by reversing his not guilty plea yesterday, pleaded guilty to 9 different tax-related charges, including 3 felonies. He could face up to years in prison and millions of dollars in fines. This is his attorney, Abbe Lowell, speaking outside of the courtroom yesterday.
Hunter put his family first today, and it was a brave and loving thing for him to do.
He did it to protect his family. Not only was much of the trial going to showcase his drug use and lavish spending of money, but also going to look at his business dealings and where his money came from. There it is, right there. He did it to protect his family. His father, Joe Biden, the president, the big guy, who is still under a House investigation. Second surprise yesterday, Georgia prosecutors wasted no time charging the father of the 14-year-old school shooter who killed 4 people and injured 9 others on Wednesday.
He is charged with the following: 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children.
Wow. That's Georgia Bureau of Investigation Director Chris Hosey. The New York Post and some other outlets reported that the gun used in this week's shooting was a Christmas present to the son. Gray's arrest comes months after parents of the Michigan school shooter were sentenced to prison time. Georgia Congressman Mike Collins spoke with Wake Up America.
Georgia Congressman Mike Collins. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. We understand Appalachian High School is in your district. We can't even imagine what your community is going through right now. How are you all holding up?
Well, it is, and I appreciate you having me on. And the reason I think people are holding up is because they have a strong faith in God, and prayers are being lifted up. And I just encourage everybody out there, please, just continue to pray for those that didn't get to make it home yesterday and those that are injured. It's times like this that your faith really comes into play.
It was heartbreaking to watch your local law enforcement there in Barrow County speak yesterday. The sheriff saying this was a situation he could have never imagined. But from what we're hearing, law enforcement did everything right, responding within minutes and apprehending the shooter, taking him into custody alive. And we're also hearing stories of heroism happening inside those walls yesterday. What can you tell us about the response and how more lives were saved because of the quick actions of those on scene?
Yeah, well, and Georgia has been preparing, and I know the state of Georgia has been providing money for school systems to improve their security. And from what I understand, I think more is going to come out today that the resource officer did a great job in contacting and helping local law enforcement identify where this shooter was and apprehending him. That being said, that this type of evil, as the sheriff put it, and he is a good man. We're not going to let that prevail. We're not going to let that win at the end of the day.
We are not going to let evil win. Georgia Representative Mike Collins on Wake Up America. Keep those families and that community in your prayers this weekend for sure. Shifting gears a bit, today is the first Friday of the month. The Labor Department's jobs report is out. It's been looming all week, as I've mentioned a few times, because it could help determine whether we get a 1/4 point or a 1/2 point interest rate cut when the feds finally cut interest rates. The economy added 142,000 jobs during the month of August. That was below the 161,000 that analysts were expecting, and it was also much less than what we had back in July. So according to the experts, this should easily clear the way for the feds to cut interest rates at the end of the month, but again, by how much? The stock markets were slightly lower at the open this morning, and Donald Trump was talking business and about the economy near Wall Street yesterday. Rob Schmitt has details.
Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Today, former President Trump reminded Americans what a competent presidential candidate looks like. Walking into the Economic Club of New York here in Midtown Manhattan, an audience of heavy hitters laying out a complex economic plan and a vision for a better American economy that benefits every single person in it. A plan that punishes offshoring, greatly incentivizes an America First business model, lowers taxes, and helps reduce future deficits by clawing back outlandish spending and ending the enormous black hole that is government waste in this country. The audience, filled with East Coast politically correct New York City capitalists, was not exactly Trump's wheelhouse, to be honest, but as a matter of fact, they ate up Trump's 80-minute speech. They absolutely loved it. Here's some of it.
We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country, including Russia and Saudi Arabia. We'll be using it. My plan will terminate the Green New Deal, a $10 trillion scam that we waste. Rescind all unspent funds under the misnamed Inflation Reduction Act. We will eliminate a minimum of 10 old regulations for every one new regulation. I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government. The fifth pillar of my plan is to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. We will have no tax on tips and also no tax on Social Security benefits. A reduction in the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15% solely for companies that make their product in America.
We wanted to leave that long for you so that you can hear just how complex these ideas are and just how hard at least one team is working to win your vote and to give a vision for what they want to do with this country if you vote for them. One team is doing that. Trump will declare a national emergency to revive our energy supply, decimated by the policies of Biden-Harris and their almost treasonous pillaging of our strategic reserves as a Band-Aid for their horrific energy policies. Trump intends to claw back unused billions from the Inflation Reduction Act, also known as the Inflation Production Act, the most deceitfully named law in American history, wasting hundreds of billions on green energy kickbacks to big Democrat donors and rampantly increasing inflation while claiming that it does exactly the opposite. And believe it or not, just this afternoon, Joe Biden, in a rare speech these days, admitted what a scam the Inflation Reduction Act truly was. Take a listen to this.
My investments, through my investments, the most significant climate change law ever. And by the way, it is a $369 billion bill. It's called the, we should have named it what it was, but at any rate.
We should have named it what it was, but then we couldn't have gotten it passed and given all that money away to all of our donors. That's what he meant to say. Back to Trump's speech today, the president intends to assail needless regulations in this country. Now 10 regulations will be killed for every single one regulation that is created. He wants to slash taxes even further. And one of his best ideas yet, accountability, and this is actually an idea that Elon Musk came up with, accountability for a government that wastes as much as half of the tremendous wealth that we provide to it. Trump wants Elon Musk to head a government efficiency commission.
The first order of business, this commission will develop an action plan to totally eliminate fraud and improper payments within 6 months. This will save trillions of dollars, trillions. It's massive.
So this has the potential to be one of the best decisions that we have ever made for our government. We send about $5 trillion a year to Washington, a number so big it would make your head explode. A modest 2023 estimate has government waste at nearly $1 trillion of the $5 that we sent.
Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. Here is some more of what Donald Trump said about the plan and about Elon Musk.
At the suggestion of Elon Musk, who has given me his complete and total endorsement. That's nice. He's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. It's very, very much appreciated. I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government and making recommendations for drastic reforms. We need to do it. Can't go on the way we are now. And Elon, because he's not very busy, has agreed to head that task force. Be interesting. If he has the time, it'll be a good one to do it, but he's agreed to do it. In 2022, fraud and improper payments alone cost taxpayers an estimated hundreds of billions of dollars. As the first order of business, this commission will develop an action plan to totally eliminate fraud and improper payments within 6 months. This will save trillions of dollars, trillions. It's massive. For the same service that you have right now, trillions of dollars is wasted and gone, and nobody knows where it went. Further taming inflation and bringing prices way down.
And this is what Trump said about Vice President Harris.
Communism is the past, freedom is the future, and it is time to send Comrade Kamala Harris back home to California, where crime is rampant and fleeing is the #1 occupation.
Donald Trump speaking at the Economic Club of New York City yesterday, and boy, I bet those meetings are really exciting. The former president is in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina today, the Queen City, a city that I recently worked in and lived in, so I know the roads are terrible, traffic is terrible, and the Trump motorcade going to make for a rough day getting around the Queen City. Plus, Trump is speaking to national police leaders, so there'll be an enormous amount of police activity. And Donald Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, spoke with Newsmax reporter John Huddy.
With the news out of Georgia, obviously heartbreaking, awful news. One, your reaction to that. Two, to Kamala Harris on the campaign trail in New Hampshire, talking about the epidemic of gun violence, seemingly going in the direction of making it a campaign issue.
Well, first of all, I mean, as a father of 3 young kids, including a couple who just started school in the past couple of days, my heart breaks for those families, right? Such a joyous occasion to get started back for a new school year, to have your loved ones taken from you. I just can't imagine it. And we're thinking about them, we're praying for them, and hoping that this tragedy is the last of its kind in this country, because we do have way too much gun violence and we do have way too much school shooting. But I think turning it into a campaign issue is really a huge mistake, because first of all, we don't know why this happened. We don't know what motivated the shooter, and we don't know what steps we could have taken maybe to prevent this from happening. I think we ought to let the facts come in before making political judgments. And for now, we should be grieving for these families and wishing the best for them.
Yeah, my kids started this week too. It's news no parent wants to hear,
of
obviously.
Course.
But you're right, we're still getting information, so we'll let that play out.
Yep.
The other big headline, the DOJ, Treasury, State Department indicting RT, formerly known as Russia Today, and subsidiaries here in the United States. Any involvement with the campaign, any involvement in trying to influence the campaign, or anybody with these subsidiaries reaching out to either you, to your campaign, to President Trump?
No, I've had no contact with some of the names that I've seen mentioned. I mean, some of these people you, of course, interact with on social media. You see them at events. They've certainly never reached out and tried to persuade me to take a particular position, whether it's a pro-Russia position or an anti-Russia position. You know, I think it's certainly, look, the allegations are very damning. This is one of these things where you got to let the facts come in. And, of course, we have, innocent until proven guilty in this country. But certainly what I've seen, man, it looks pretty bad. And I'm hoping that it's very limited, because the more this stuff gets out there, I think that the more that it challenges Americans' faith in their own political debates and their own political decisions.
I was going to say, this has been going on for years. I mean, Russia Today, RT, there was RT America, so this isn't anything new.
Of course, yeah.
So this is not exactly a surprise. Speaking of Russia launched another attack overnight on Lviv. I was recently in Ukraine in July and August. President Trump has said that he would have this war basically wrapped up. Before taking office if reelected. Do you agree with that? How do you get that done? How does he get that done? Is that possible? Because in Ukraine, there's a lot of people who are wary of that.
Yeah, well, look, there are also a lot of people in Ukraine who are wary of perpetual war, and there are a lot of people in Russia who are also wary of perpetual war. And if you look at this really is not in the best interest of Ukraine. It's not in the best interest of Russia. It's not in the best interest of the United States for this thing to be prolonged indefinitely. And I think President Trump recognizes that smart diplomacy, applying leverage, can actually force a peaceful settlement here. I do agree with him. I think that he's right. And I also think, frankly, look, the bad guys are afraid of Donald Trump. It's one of the reasons why Russia didn't invade another country when he was president. They recognize that if Donald Trump is going to be the president of the United States, they can't walk all over the United States, which I think creates an opening for peace.
Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance with Newsmax's John Huddy. The left is already pushing the narrative that Russia is interfering in the election to help Donald Trump win. Trump even said yesterday, here we go again with Russia, Russia, Russia. This is Vladimir Putin himself speaking through a translator in a recent interview saying that he had preferred Joe Biden and now he's fine with Kamala.
If we can name a favorite candidate, it used to be Joe Biden, but now he is not participating in the election campaign, and he recommended to all his allies to support Ms. Harris. So that is what we are going to do. So it was, well, he said that we should, that is why we should also do that. Well, her laugh, she's laughing, her laugh is so fascinating. It means that everything is good, and if everything is good, it means that, for instance, if we're speaking about Joe Biden, there are so many sanctions against Russia introduced, and if everything is good with Ms. Harris, maybe she'll refrain herself from such measures, or maybe she'll change them. So in the end, it will be the choice of the U.S. people, and we will respect this choice.
Russian President Vladimir Putin in a recent interview. So you heard J.D. Vance, and this is Kamala Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz, campaigning yesterday.
Took Kamala Harris to come onto the scene to tell us this is a joyful thing we're doing. This is hopeful. She's running on this idea of an opportunity economy where everybody belongs and everybody has a place. Everybody.
What does that even mean? This is a joyful thing. Everybody's got a place in the economy. How does that help the economy? What are they saying? And people are cheering. It's crazy. This is Greg Kelly with more on Tim Walz.
Again, none of this is normal. Kumala, right? None of this should be happening, but it is. We can't pretend. We can't forget. This is not normal. I'd say borderline dangerous, actually, when you think about it. And, you know who else is getting off the hook? Tim Walz. Watch this.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back. And I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment. But we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states. And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Definition of stolen valor right there. Now, I think we should play this clip all the time. One thing conservative media does not do very well, quite frankly, is get the drumbeat going, the momentum, right? Oh, we did that story. We did that story on Tuesday. We did a follow-up on Wednesday, and then we move on to the next thing we're supposed to react to. No, we need them to react to us, all right? You know, remember 2 years, they beat the drums, CNN, the New York Times, over nothing, Russia collusion, boom, 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 boom. Then it was nothing, then they move on. We don't bang the drum enough. This is the definition of stolen valor. We demand an explanation, and we must find out who this guy really is. He lies all the time. This is not a one-day story or a two-day story. This renders him ineligible to be vice president of the United States. If we had a healthy democracy, we would have 4,000 reporters camped outside of his house, wherever the hell he lives in Minnesota. And not only this, what's the deal with the drunk driving? I mean, maybe it's not a deal breaker, but when you look at everything else, the lying and the speed, this guy wasn't going 20 miles per hour over this. He was going 95. I've never driven a car that fast. Maybe. All right. What do we have here? A DUI, 96 and a 55. 0.128 blood alcohol level. He pled guilty, $200 fine. Now, all right, does that in and of itself render him ineligible to be the vice president? No. No, it doesn't. But maybe this part does. When he runs for Congress, he comes up with this cockamamie excuse that it had something to do with a military injury. According to Walz's campaign staff, Walz denied being drunk the night of the incident. Walz was hard of hearing, a result of his years as an artillery soldier in the Army National Guard, and had trouble hearing the trooper. So this actually, I just realized something. You know, my father was an artillery officer in the Marine Corps and actually had his hearing affected. He is hard of hearing for real. Disabled veteran, hard of hearing. How about that? I don't like this at all. This is another example of stolen valor. I couldn't hear the cop. No, he had .128, 96 miles per hour of the speed limit. At least your family's coming forward, right? The brother. Did you hear this story? I love it. Jeff Walz said that, my brother shouldn't be the vice president. How about all of his cousins and aunts and uncles, the Nebraska clan of the Walz family, all for Trump?
That's Greg Kelly, host of Greg Kelly Reports. And we started off with Rob Schmitt, so we'll finish it up with Rob Schmitt's News from the Left.
Next up, Adam Schiff trying to make Kamala look like a moderate on energy and climate policy. This was clever. Take a look.
I favor banning fracking, and I strongly believe that the pathway to attacking climate change is to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels. As the vice president pointed out, her values, though, have remained consistent, and that is she is a champion of moving ourselves in the renewable energy direction.
Yeah, so that interview basically sounded like, oh, I want to go further, but, Kamala's not there yet because they're terrified that the middle, they're losing them as fast as they can. So now Kamala's a moderate on energy and climate change. Yeah, she's such a moderate senator and now a moderate presidential candidate. I'm sure we're all buying that. Next up, former aide to New York's Governor Kathy Hochul arrested, charged with acting as an undisclosed agent of the Chinese government in exchange for millions in kickbacks. I wonder how many politicians the Chinese have in their pocket in reality. Linda Sun, Hochul's deputy chief of staff, also worked for Cuomo, arrested this morning with her husband after the FBI raided their $4 million home on Long Island earlier this year. Indictment contends she used her position to turn the governor's office into a mouthpiece for the Chinese Communist Party. Again, I think these people are all over our government. Here she was pushing equity not too long ago, a communist principle.
But I think right now we also need to bring in the word equity, right? Diversity is when you say that there's, many different types of people with different backgrounds and they're all, invited to the table. Inclusion is when, we include all of their ideas. But equity is when we make sure that all of the people who are at the table have equal access.
Yeah, need that equity. By the way, China funds Black Lives Matter and Antifa as well. They love to stir up all that chaos in our country, pushing these radical left agendas. And finally, is there anything that's not biased for Kamala Harris at this point? Check out what Amazon's Alexa is telling its users.
Hey, Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump?
I cannot provide responses that favor a specific political party or a candidate. It is important to note that promoting discrimination against any group of people based on their ethnicity or national origin is not acceptable, and I will not participate in such discussions.
Hey, Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris?
So, yeah, you ask about voting for Trump, and they say there's no reason to. You ask about Kamala Harris, and they give you all these amazing things about Kamala Harris. Amazon responded admitting it was, or claiming it was an error that was quickly fixed.
Yeah, that Amazon Alexa story is just insane, and it just goes to show you how crazy things are. Today, President Biden will be speaking at an event in Michigan without the vice president, who campaigned in Pittsburgh yesterday and is staying in Pittsburgh, apparently, until next week's debate to prepare for the debate. Trump, I mentioned, is in North Carolina today, Charlotte. He has a rally tomorrow, Make America Great Again rally in Wisconsin. That's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, an early early rally. 1 o'clock. You can see it, as always, on Newsmax. Be sure to keep up with all of the news on Newsmax, Newsmax 2, and Newsmax.com throughout the weekend. Be sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus for all your favorite shows, guests, documentaries, and more. Newsmaxplus.com. Don't forget about Wake Up America Weekend Edition, Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday Agenda, the Gorka Reality Check, America Right Now, Nancy Brinker, Rita Cosby, Wendy Bell, and much more. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Make sure you subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. Enjoy all the college and professional football. If that's your thing, go Dolphins and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Hey, it's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today.